You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Rick Ackerman, editor of the newsletter Rick's Picks, his website, rickackerman.com. Welcome back to the show.
Indeed, a pleasure, Jim. Thanks for inviting me on.
Do you think the strikes on Iran have settled the Middle East question for now, and there will be peace in the Middle East?
Well, you notice that the market hasn't exactly plummeted from the time that war broke out until now, and certainly there's a lot less urgency to things that are going on with the ceasefire than there was initially. So I see the market as always kind of marking time, waiting for the next piece of news to move it. And by move it, I say only in one direction. The market only goes up over time until a bear market hits. And news is simply used as an opportunity to create short squeeze gaps in the charts. So I guess the powers that be are waiting for that. Wall Street's waiting for that opportunity. But I'm not quite sure that there's enough news, at least not news that I can imagine, that could be used to lift the market.
Is there a danger that, again, people become complacent and don't take a look at the risks? Well,
when you say complacent, I think of just friends of mine who are still expecting to come through 2025 with the 40% gains they made in 2024. And I just don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, there's plenty of complacency here. And with the market, with the broad averages, broad indices as close as they are to the old record highs, complacency is going to be at a high level.
What's going on with gold?
I still love gold. And, whenever they bang it down, it feels kind of miserable for a while. But you have to realize that whatever gold does correctively in a day or a week or even a month, it goes against the dominant trend, which is bullish. And the bullish trend is really because the big boys, I'm talking about every sovereign entity in this world that owns gold, they're buying it. They're hoarding it. They're taking as much up as they can when the price comes down. So you really have to see any weakness in gold as corrective.
Now, a lot of people expected oil prices to explode when Iran and Israel started exchanging missiles. It really didn't. What happened?
Well, the spinmeisters exhaled a phony sigh of relief, and just right on schedule, all the usual shills came out with stories about why the price of crude did not explode, even with the threat of closure of the Strait of Hormuz and a tightening of supply. So the way the story had it was that U.S. fracking is producing so much crude that we're actually a net exporter. And I wouldn't say it's created a global glut, but it's kept the lid on the market. And another force cited by these phony, trotted out spinmeister stories was that the Saudis are pumping more now just to maintain market share. But I think you got to be nuts to short crude and buy into this story that the world is there's plenty of crude to go around. And my current minimum target, and this goes back quite a ways to when crude was down in the low to mid 60s, but I'm looking at 85 and change as a minimum upside target for the August NYMEX contract. So we didn't get up that high on the spike when war first broke out. I think we went as high as maybe 78 or so, and it settled back. It came down so hard from 78 down into the low 60s that, yeah, you could almost get the idea that the world has enough crude to last for 1,000 years, and that there'll be no supply disruptions. But I think all the believers in that story are in for a shock if they're short crude.
What do you think is going to happen?
Well, it's unpredictable, really. I'm let's say, cautiously optimistic about the ceasefire, but I have to say that this was sort of an odd way to come to it. But I saw yesterday there was a group of very little. They were Jewish children, and maybe in the ages bracket of 5 to 7 years old, and they were just having a lovely playtime together. And when I think that the hatred that's driving this war in the Middle East, hatred of Islamists toward Israel and Jews, that was able to literally slit the throats of kids like that and laugh and televise it, it tells me that there'll never be a real peace between Israel and its deepest enemies, its worst enemies. So I see the ceasefire, whatever happens here, as just kind of a holding pattern for the jihadis. It could be a long enough interlude to provide the world with a break, because as the point that I think it was Rubio made was that Iran has been the source of all conflict in the Middle East, all terrorism, all mayhem and murder. And with Iran very seriously out of commission, and of course its proxies have been knocked out of the box too. Hezbollah certainly, and Hamas. The only group that's still operating are the Houthis in Yemen. But it's possible that if the Houthis step out of line in the context of a ceasefire, that will give us the incentive to blow them the hell off the earth. So anyway, this could be. I can see where investors might read into the ceasefire something more than we'll get eventually, but maybe enough to keep the markets buoyant for a while.
NATO announcing that they're going to go for a 5% spending target, Canada joining in on that. Is this good news for people looking at buying defensive stocks?
Yeah, it's not like that outcome has not been discounted already. You really, I guess, if you're an investor right now in some of those stocks, you really have to discount it going out quite a few years. But I think it strains credulity to think that all these European countries are going to somehow boost their spending from levels of 1 or 2% of GDP all the way up to 5%, which was Trump's number. They've, I guess, committed to it on paper, but the sorry fact is they don't even have. They'll have to find the money. And to talk particularly about Britain, where Britain is, it's not in good shape, really. Well, none of the European countries are in any kind of shape at all to double their spending on defense. So as far as the eventual effect of that doubling resulting in the sale of U.S. ordnance and military hardware, I think you better hold the enthusiasm for a while.
Would the concentration be on drone production and hypersonic missiles? Those seem to be the big things that have come out of the Ukraine war.
Well, U.S. isn't even the big maker of drones. Every country, even the backwater countries, have gone gung-ho for drones because they represent such a great opportunity to foment asymmetrical warfare. It's like even West African countries can be in the game to create trouble for their neighbors with drone attacks. So I don't know. There's so many players there that it's really hard to get an investable handle in the drone business per se. They're really just kind of model airplanes, and I don't think it's the technology is certainly significant for the way we fight wars, but I'm not quite sure it's a great investable.
Hypersonic missiles. Iran claims to have one that can do Mach 13.
Yeah, and they're going to have a lot of trouble kind of replacing the launchers that Israel took out. No matter how many missiles they have, they need a platform to launch them. And I think that they're their conventional capability has been very, very heavily damaged, and for them to merely try to rebuild it, they're going to face an attack, additional attacks from Israel, and who knows, maybe even the U.S. So I don't think that the U.S. Or that Israel perceives Iran's missile capability as a particular threat right now. I guess the biggest threat would be a dirty bomb. And ironically, even though there's all this gnashing of teeth and hand wringing over where is the 400 kilos of enriched uranium, to me, it's an absolute certainty that Israel knows exactly where it is. They have the best intelligence in the world, and for Iran to attempt to move something which has the radioactive signature of plutonium, move it from one place to another, they'd either have to shield it with something that would be very obvious to spy cams, or the radioactivity itself would be a giveaway. So I would bet, I'd give 10 to 1 odds, really, that Israel knows exactly where the plutonium is, and the enriched uranium, and that effectively makes it a potential dirty bomb. Israel could say, look, Iran, we know exactly where it is, and if you don't do right by us, we're going to make a dirty bomb out of that uranium. So that's I know that's a little bit I don't know whether I'd call it a contrarian idea, but to me it seems pretty obvious.
We'll have more with Rick Ackerman right after this.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Rick Ackerman. Rick, what's happening with copper?
Well, copper is, I guess, a pretty reliable indicator of industrial activity. When the world really believes we're going to have another boom, copper kind of perks up. I haven't followed it as closely as I follow some other things, in part because I'm not a believer in an industrial boom. It is consequential. I was just reading today where AT&T has very seriously embraced fiber telecommunications, and there's a bonus for them in that, because they get to take all their copper infrastructure and sell it at current prices, and prices are high enough that AT&T is kind of licking its chops about offloading its copper wherever it's needed. So anyway, I would look at copper as it always has been, a reliable industrial metal, and I don't see a global boom pushing it into any kind of bullish parabola.
What's going on with high-tech stocks?
Well, all the stories, everything is AI this and AI that, and it's funny. We've already sort of gone through a phase where everybody, the usual guys, were warning that AI was going to wipe out human life on the planet, and a lot of us have this idea of the HAL 9000 from Space Odyssey, and that's just AI coming at you. But I think that where we're going to see problems with AI is at a much more mundane level. There's Charles Hugh Smith put out a very interesting idea that if AI is really that smart, it may look at some of the work we give it and say, hey, this is just bullshit, and specifically, so much of the work that gets done in this country is it's useless. It has no real purpose. And Charles cited tax policy, filling out your tax form every year, as one of those wasteful enterprises that, as much as Congress rejiggers the tax laws, it doesn't much change the amount that's collected. They just kind of favor one taxpayer over another with each change they make. but it doesn't really change anything fundamentally. So it's possible that if AI takes over filling out tax forms, it's going to reject them. It's going to say, this is worthless. This is just make work. And don't insult me by throwing me some of these loophole-ridden tax forms. So and another thing I've been reading about is AI-produced music, and you can see why the creative forces in the entertainment industry have worked so. And I don't mean the producers for sure. The real talent I'm talking about, the writers and the actors. I can see why they've taken a hard line against the expanded use of AI product in all of the in entertainment media. So in some places we can tell a difference. You know, AI is not capable of writing a decent poem or painting a master work of art. But as far as coming up with pop tunes, it's unbeatable. So at this point, music lovers are starting to get a pretty heavy dose of artificial intelligence music in their streaming inventory, and you know, it's like, who can tell the difference? But I think ultimately the listeners are sensitive to the idea of, you know, whether we can tell the difference or not. We want the real thing. We don't want crap music. We want human beings to give us our music, because it's just intrinsically it's more creative. There's some imagination to it. So I think, but the AI story, as you sort of extrapolate it out, all the possibilities, is unlimited. It's going to change everything so much. But the most obvious fact is that it's going to put a lot of people out of work. And I think we're right at that threshold right now of white collar people realizing that they're part of the target. They're in the target area for jobs that are going to be replaced by AI. And it's really dawned on a lot of white collar people, most immediately college grads coming out of law school who would be doing grunt work at some firm for a couple of years, just to earn their paycheck. We don't need them anymore. And that's the case for a whole number of white collar jobs. When you take it to the other extreme, you can imagine, and this is something we should all fear, that only minimally qualified doctors will be doing brain surgery, because as long as they have steady hands, the AI resource they're using will guide them through the surgery. So this idea that we don't need we don't need physicians with the talent and brains that have been required before, because we've got AI to do the grunt work. That's a dangerous, very dangerous projection. So anyway, yeah, all you're going to hear is the AI story, and there's still enough of it that any company that sells something can benefit revenue-wise from claiming a tie to AI. I could do that myself. I could put out Rick's picks, and the machines are getting better at writing stuff. I don't think they can write quite. I don't think they can cover my bases, but we're in that stage really where the dawning of the realization that all of us are going to be out of work, or most of us, when AI gets chugging, and that's what's impelling it forward. That's the primary reason for AI. It's what will bring it forward commercially.
How long before AI gets the vote?
Well, it's interesting. It can do more than that right now without making that explicit. You know, you don't have to say we're going to let all AI machines in on the 2028 election. They can influence the way people vote, and that's obviously more pernicious than voting themselves. I say them, but it's really an it that I'm talking about. So AI that's really the biggest danger, that AI that we talk to, relate to, can become persuasive. It will definitely become a force in advertising in insidious ways that go beyond what all the inferable information that Google collects on you, and all of the actual likes and dislikes that Facebook collects from you. That's one way the advertisers gather data to target you very precisely. But AI can go one step further. It can not only target you, it can persuade you. So when you ask a question of an AI device, and it comes up with a response, it for sure is going to be programmed at some point to make a little sales pitch for some weight loss drug. So that's probably the most immediate. There's so many things that are really happening already, and supposedly the super intelligent AI that will be here and working for or against us by 2028 is there'll be some big changes between now and then, and certainly thereafter.
Rick, thank you so much for being on the show.
And thank you, Jim. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with your audience, and look forward to our next talk.
My guest has been Rick Ackerman, editor of the newsletter Rick's Picks, his website, rickackerman.com. If you have any questions for Rick or for any of our guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. We'll ask that question for you. Find us on X @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.